altimeter. QNH 29er, decimal 9er, 0. QFE 27, decimal 9er, 6 inches of mercury.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Juice. So today's video is going to be a little bit of a demonstration video. This is Nick Swift Costella from Tactical DCS and I practicing our F-16 two-ship takeoff in variable takeoff configurations, well, not really configurations, but variable takeoff styles. Today we're going to be doing 3 different types of takeoffs that we're practicing at, kind of loosely using our basic knowledge from GA flying, but also mostly from what we witnessed being, Air Force and Navy pilot, or Air Force and Navy members that have seen a lot of takeoffs and stuff like that. So we're trying to marry a little bit of realism with what's capable in DCS and what's within our own limitations and capabilities. Like I said, this is more of a practice video of what we're doing, but we're going to show you what we're doing today. So setting up the cockpit or the views outside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on myself. We're waiting for Nick to spawn in, and then I'm going to set up the camera angles like that. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do my camera angle like this, so I can see Nick when we start rolling, when I start rolling. And then I'm going to set up Nick's camera angle. Let's zoom in on him. Then switch to F2. Then I'm going to set up Nick's camera angle from this angle, so I get good light on him, plus also I can should be able to see my airplane in the thing. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to F10. We're going to click on Nellis Air Force Base, and we're going to hit F11. And then we're going to move the cam all the way down to the threshold, so you can see when we taxi onto the runway what it looks like when we do our lineup from back there and everything like that. And again, don't take this as SOP for the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, or anything like that. This is just what we do. That's kind of easy and commonality, and it kind of makes it look like the real thing. But like I said, we're not saying this is the expert way to do it. We're just doing it for fun. But we wanted to share that with you guys today. We hope you like it. All right. So next, there's Nick. This is inside my cockpit. You heard when we started up that we were listening to the Nellis HOTAS. We have that set up through the Moose script. So that we can dial over to 270.1 and get the HOTAS, and I have that set in the mission editor to the channel 1 on UHF. So Nick and I are using radio comms today. We're not using SRS, but you won't hear any of that chatter between us. We're not doing that. This is a successful capture of a track replay that didn't get corrupt. So we're looking forward to showing you what we've got today. So we're calling UHF Uniform, and we're calling VHF Victor. And I apologize if you can't hear the taxi sounds right now. You might be able to hear it a little bit, but I turned it down so you can hear me talking in game and stuff like that. And let's go that way. And then there's Nick. Now Nick will start taxiing, and we're trying to maintain spacing of about 200 feet, as much as you can judge in DCS. That's why your field of view is really important in DCS. You'll notice it seems like I'm almost eating the UFC in the HUD, or the IPC in the HUD. That's because if you look at an F-16 pilot, he sits pretty close to the HUD. He or she's right up there and everything. So going to F11, you get to see the taxi out view, which looks pretty sexy if you ask me. So our first takeoff we're doing today is what I call an interval takeoff, and it's basically we take off in intervals, and we're doing a 6-second delayed interval takeoff and stuff. So you'll get to see that, and then going back in, there's Nick. There's me, and you should see Nick coming up beside us. He's not called Swift for any reason, and there he is. Awesome. So we're testing our lineup points. We're reading in the Vol 5 and the Vol 3 about aircraft lineup. When he's lining up like this for a formation takeoff, let's go back to this way. He is almost in line, like in the T-38 manual, I remember reading that you line up aft of the nozzles, or just even with the nozzles. In the F-16 for a formation takeoff, you line up in with the gear and stuff. And so that's a good picture right there. That's beauty there. Let's do a picture here. Snap, screenshot. All right, so Nick and I are just talking through our sweep, and you should see some flight control movement there soon. And then going back to the F11 view, let's see how loud it gets. Now he's moving up into position to get in line with my my main gear. Let's move up a little closer. Then we just do, we're in comms right now. We're, you know, we're training, so, you know, we don't automatically know to do the 80%. When he sees my nozzle start to move, he needs to go 80%. Brakes first, of course. 80%, and then I call my release. He's got a, that's when he starts his 1,000, 1,000 count. And so I basically nod my head that I'm going. I slowly advance and go into burner. And I guide towards the center line a little bit. And then 6 seconds later he starts his roll. And then slowly advance into burner. He guides towards the center line. I am airborne. Here I am coming up. You can see him back there. My light's already out because I raised the gear. Now when I'm departing, I'm staying at about 2 to 3 degrees in low ground effect as I'm climbing through 300. As soon as I'm over the threshold, that's typically where I'll start my 5-degree climb. And the reason we do that is because in case there's any traffic in the pattern that is doing a an overhead brake. You know, you've got a 4-ship coming in. Usually, if you got a 4-ship coming in, lead probably brakes right at the threshold. 2 brakes another, you know, 6 seconds, 3 seconds later. And sorry about that. And then you know, 3 and 4 brake, and hopefully the brakes are not too far past the threshold. But we stay low until we get past the threshold, and that's when we start our 5-degree climb. Typically at Nellis, we brief guys to fly the 1500 AGL pattern or 3500 MSL about rounded. And what they do is we come in at 3500 MSL and do our brakes at that altitude and stuff like that. So this is the first takeoff and landing, you'll see. Or takeoff, I should say. This is our first takeoff together. So we're going to go all the way, we're flying all the way up to the rejoin to where he gets in position, and then we're going to reset there. You'll see us disappear, and we're going to go back into jets. We'll have to set up the camera angles again, and we'll do a different takeoff. So this was our 6-second interval takeoff as we do in air warfare group. Nick's a really good pilot. We both have similar backgrounds in general aviation. Nick's also an air traffic controller and also a drone pilot too. He's certificated in all three disciplines. And he's a pretty good DCS pilot, I guess. Alright, there we go. So now we'll go back to our start point here in a second. I'll have to set up the cameras again, just as I did before, just the zooms and everything. F11 camera's already set, so we'll just leave that there. And then I've already disappeared, and here goes Nick. See you, Nick. Alright, so we'll pop back in a second. Okay, I'm in the jet.
Nellis Air Force Base. Information, November 1508, Zulu time. Visibility 43 nautical miles. Break-in.
So we are at EOR right now. I set up in the emission editor hot starts at the EOR for this demonstration. So we're already on. I just cleared the frequency and went over to tower on UHF. And what we're doing right now is we're setting up our lights. We're setting up our external lights over there. You'll see me click on a few things. We're going to steady instead of flash for our position lights. Setting up the internal cockpit lights and everything. Setting up our TACAN for 12 X-ray, so that if we have to come back to the field prematurely, we'll have that X-ray information in there. So we're setting up. Let's go ahead and do the look that we want. I'm going to do a little zoom in. Thanks again to Tactical Pascal over at Tactical DCS for showing us these camera angles. Amazing. I've always wondered how guys got the really fine detail close-up look. There we go. Get in there a little close on Nick. Nick is flying the 64th Aggressor Squadron Ghost pattern. I am flying the Shark pattern, as you'll see. That's the Shark pattern. And then they have a flanker pattern too, which is kind of a square digital pattern for a flanker. And then the other pattern we fly when we do 4 ships is the Dark Viper, which is close to an aggressor pattern and everything. But you can see the level of detail on the F-16. Even though it is in early development, it's still a great module to fly right out of the box. Just like with the Hornet, they're still, you know, doing upgrades and improvements for quite a few years and coming along very well. There goes Nick. Let's do him. Look at him. On that taxi, well, yeah, in the turns you're allowed to go off the taxi lines a little bit. He does a lot better job than I do, though. Really good job. So we're watching for spacing, and then we'll go over here. Now let's move the camera. What we'll do this time, this takeoff here we're doing is called a rolling takeoff in the RAF. In the US we call it a feed on. You feed onto the runway and go. And then the only restriction is, here goes the burner. Only restriction is number 2 is only allowed to go if there's been that 6-second interval delay. So once I push, he's counting. As soon as he hears me rev up, he's going to count and he's going to go. Because there is some wake turbulence. And you'll notice Nick here guides over a little bit to the right side of the runway to avoid the exhaust, because in DCS there is a little bit of marginal exhaust impact when you're following somebody on the runway. You can get knocked around. We've had guys crash before because they didn't anticipate the turbulence. And you can see that in Nick's flying. He's got, he's trying to stay out of my vortices. That's why you'll see him come up. Look how wide he is off my trail line, off my track. He's coming up on the right side with a good buffer of zone there, a little buffer zone of safety. And so this was the second takeoff we did. We did what we call the feed on, or the rolling takeoff, with a 6-second interval for wake turbulence, and Nick also guided over to the right to avoid that. So good job on Nick, really good. So again, we'll do the same thing. We'll do the reset, go back into the jet, and we'll do our third takeoff, which is going to be kind of cool. It's going to be our formation takeoff, or 2-ship formation takeoff. And we should disappear soon. Alright, let's go back to this side. We're going to do the 2-ship formation takeoff. I'm going to actually follow the aircraft down the runway with the camera here. So it may be a little choppy, but we'll see how that comes out. I've done it before and it's not pretty, but it's effective. It'll do it. Alright, should be popping in the cockpit soon. Or popping out of the cockpit. Look at that. So as I'm taking off lead, I have a contract that I will not go over 350 knots. Typically what I do in the Viper is I gear up on positive climb. I immediately start to pull back out of burner. I'm usually out of burner by about 250, 260. And then I am cruising through 300 right about the threshold when I reach that point where I bring it from 2 to 3 degrees up to 5 degrees and stuff. So that's me, just using some of the information that I've been able to dig out of some of the manuals that are quite dated, 1990s, from the F-16 balls that are available. There's that HOTAS again.
2,400. Ceiling 7,001.
So we'll go for the, so my zoom is fixed now. I've got my zoom is already fixed in on me and stuff. So I will do this, and we'll look at that angle there. Then I'll go over to Nick. Nick's zoom is already fixed too. Let's see. Nope, I got to zoom in on him right there. Let's zoom in a little bit, and this will be cool because we'll get Nick at this angle with the sun behind him, and that should be in the I should be in the picture one during the takeoff. So let's see how it goes. So again, first takeoff we did was we lined up together in 6-second interval. The next takeoff we did was a 6-second interval rolling takeoff, or feed on. And then the next takeoff we're going to do is a formation takeoff. This takeoff is going to be where we both push at the same time. Now, to read what I found out in that we've been doing it all along, pretty correct, but I never found a reference for it till I started digging into Vol 5, which is the Combat Aircraft Fundamentals for the F-16, and it talks about, lead goes to full mil or max power as needed, based on the calculated takeoff landing roll. For percentage of runway remaining, and it gets kind of technical, but what we do is we just go ahead and do burner takeoffs all the time, regardless of configuration. Typically, though, lead will push the power up to max and then retard the throttle just a little bit to give number 2 a power advantage, because if you go full power and don't do anything to recover from that, the other airplane will never be able to catch you unless they have a super jet or something. So we're back in my jet now, taxiing out. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the sounds. I've been trying to do these recordings with the sounds turned down in the cockpit and in the environment so you can hear me better. I'm also trying to talk a little bit more forcefully and not cool like a jazz singer. And I wanted to see how the voices come across without the mic pops and everything. I'm using a Sennheiser G4ME gaming headset, and it seems to be working for me. I think I've had that for about 6-7 years now. It's one of my favorite types of headsets. Alright, this time we're going to follow on the runway. The camera's going to follow the formation as it takes off and see how it does. And then we'll do a couple of F3 views and stuff like that. So we'll go back into my jet. And then we'll go F11 again. And then follow those on. And I'll have to roll the mouse to increase the speed of this. So Nick and I are cheating. We're using those lineup lines. If you see those chevrons on the runway there, not really chevrons, they're just stripes. But we're lining up on those 3 stripes. He's lining up on the stripe inboard of the right side, and I'm lining in the stripe just inboard of the left side. Alright, we're talking it through. We're comms on. But again, this can be done with comms off once you're trained on what to expect, timing of everything. It's pretty much standard procedure once you're trained and experienced at it. And there's us going through the sweeps. You can see his shadows, flight controls moving. Alright. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can use the taxi takeoff light as a flash when number 2 lets him know he's set. And again, run it up 80% with brakes. Once he's set, I see power on, his nose is dropped. I go ahead and call the ready brakes release now. He's a little bit, so I go a little bit forward and I come back. He's going to use a little bit of extra power. Look at that, we went and burner about the same time. Not bad, not bad. Stay on the runway, Nick. Whoa. Can't blame it on wake turbulence this time. And you always want to match lead's rotation. When lead rotates, you always want to match it. So Nick comes up and he starts climbing a little too high, and then he realizes it. Remember, we always want to stay low in ground effect until we get positive. Well, during positive rate of climb, we've already established that. We never go gear up until we have positive climb. And let's go F3. Here we go on the flyby. Looks pretty cool. Nick overshoots me a little bit here. Not bad. The good thing is he keeps me above his canopy line. If you get too high, you can lose sight of lead under your wing or under your nose. So he does a pretty good job. He's taking a little spread there, using a little geometry to decrease his advantage on me. Now on takeoff, in the formation takeoff, if lead is overrun by number 2 becomes the leader and you continue the takeoff. Alright, and that's our takeoff today. Takeoff little demonstration, kind of a practice, definitely not a tutorial. I hope you guys like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Consider sharing it with your friends if you think there's something beneficial that can come from that. I appreciate you watching, and you guys be safe out there. Have a great day. Cheers!